There's one of the guys, and he's trying to overcome some past addictions and whatnot. His wife really feels like he's emotionally abusive, and it's a touchy subject, to the point where she feels like conference talks and things like that are telling her she shouldn't have to stay in that situation. Sounds like a burn victim type of scenario.
This is usually the case early in the repair process when the wife is raw, the husband is also raw. We don't assume that you're just fine and she's the only one who's hurt. We assume that you have some kind of injury, some kind of pain, just like Brandon was describing. He's got some PTSD, she's got some PTSD. And it's not hard for Satan to really throw fire on the torment element of stimulating fears. You got to really focus your attention on what part of this you can control as part of your reflect and discover part of your DPAR. The best thing that you can do in a situation like that is get your pattern for growth cycle rolling and use paper. Really helps to get it out of your head and lock it down and look at it so you can really look at it so that you've got this psychological anchor to a divine entity that's going to start pulling you through the process. So we have a parable for this situation where once you burned a woman and she doesn't have confidence in her discernment of whether or not it's safe to come back to you, the only thing I've ever seen work really well is you have to convince God to convince her that you're safe. You cannot convince her directly. You can't say something to her that's going to change her perspective. Can you convince God that you are the best man for this woman? And then he will discuss it with her. So you'll read in this parable of the Southern Belle, and it puts you in the father position so that you can have some empathy and some protective instincts. If a young man assaulted your daughter, if a young man took liberties on your daughter, what would it take for you to encourage her to date him again? What would you have to see? What would you have to observe, and how long would you have to observe it before you would notice how paradoxical that is? Would you allow her to date him? No, I'm not saying allow. Would you encourage her to date him? So that'll give you an idea of the punch list of what needs to be done to convince God to start encouraging her to reunite with you.
If you're finding this video helpful or want to help us reach others in need, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really supports our channel. Thank you.
The best news about being the husband is your presiding position gives you a lot of power to move things forward, and you can keep going through the cycle even if she's never learned this, even if she's never been taught this. She doesn't have to know this system for you to use it. You can do all of it without her being educated on this. I've had husbands take their entire marriage through healing without her taking one class in marriage repair. It might take her longer, but when a man does it right, he becomes a focal point of the improvement. He becomes a presider, a leader of the improvement. She doesn't have to be trained in this stuff. If she wants to be a good woman, if she stays connected to God, if she prefers the concept of marriage, she'll pull right into place. It just might take a little bit longer. The hardest part is to get the husband on the right track. That's the hardest part. And he's usually blaming her for not being there. Well, if she would just, if she would just, if she would just, if she would just. Marital mission statement: adequately healed, adequately safe, a well-connected safety rejuvenation line with God, ready to give instead of receive, alarms in place so that you know when to retreat, dignified retreat plan that you've practiced and practiced and practiced and are continuing to improve, feeling courageous, psychologically fortified, charity, merciful, free of addictions, no anger, blame, impatience, or resentment, and a rejuvenation plan in place. Do you see how easy this process becomes when you're well prepared? So lead the process. You be the first one who brings these features into your interactions. You should have zero impatience. You should not be waiting for her. Until you can get in tune with this list, you have no business expecting anything from her. You have no business hoping for anything from her.